Good evening, everyone. I'm Jean James, President of the Canberra Jung Society. In case you don't know who I am, some people might know. Thank you for joining us again here at MacKillop House and online. Let us first acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay our respects to the elders, past, present and emerging. This evening, we're delighted to welcome someone new to our Friday meetings, Dr. Brentyn Ramm, who has travelled all the way from Sydney to be with us today on the Murrays, is that right?
Yes.
Yes. And graciously accommodated by Shauna and Jeff. Thank you very much, Shauna and Jeff. Brentyn will be talking with us about seeing our true nature, the Headless Way approach to self-inquiry. Dr. Ramm notes that contemplative traditions have variously described your true nature as void-like, empty, and yet full of the world, a clear light, pure awareness. The Headless Way approach is simple and practical and offers techniques for investigating who or what you really are for yourself. I think that would be very useful. I'm a teacher, so that would be very, very useful.
That's if we really want to know.
Dr. Brentyn Ramm is a philosopher. His research focuses on using first-person experiential methods to inform the nature of consciousness and the self. He is based in Sydney and a guest scientist of the Witten Herdecke University. He was at Humboldt, postdoctorate fellow at Witten Herdecke University in Germany and in the Department of Psychology and Psychotherapy, 2021 and 2023. He completed his philosophy PhD in the School of Philosophy at the Australian National University in 2016. He also completed a PhD in cognitive psychology at the University of Queensland in 2006. Following Brentyn's presentation, we'll have a short break for the yummies over there and resume for discussion and question, finishing by 10 p.m. Note that we're recording this event for later reference. If you're here on Zoom, please remain muted while Brentyn is speaking. Use Zoom chat for comments and we'll open up later for discussion. Thank you very much. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming. So this talk is on your true nature. What is your true nature? So I want to talk about, or I want to introduce a method of self-inquiry developed by Douglas Harding called the Headless Way. And so you could call it a method for seeing your true nature. Next slide. And so what we'll do is I'll talk about what awakening is like in Zen and guide you through some of the awakening. What is it to awaken to your true nature? So I don't want to talk about anything like highfalutin, like enlightenment or anything like that. So I'm thinking of an awakening experience sort of as a transformation in how one experiences oneself and the world. So in Zen, there's a particular form of awakening experience called Kensho, and that directly translates to seeing one's true nature as Bodhidharma, the first patriarch of Zen. So there seem to be two main aspects or two usual sort of aspects to a Kensho experience. And the first one is basically seeing that the nature of yourself or mind is empty. So we've got an example from Lyneham, He says, seeing into one's self-nature is seeing into nothingness. Seeing into nothingness is true and eternal seeing. And the second aspect is sort of an experience of non-duality, so losing the sense of there being a separation between subject and object. So we have an example from Young Po. He describes the experience of non-duality as a perception sudden as blinking that subject and object are one. Next slide. So what to look for? So I'm going to look at a few quotes from Zen. So we're not here to take these quotes as sort of authorities or anything like that. I think they're just sort of useful pointers. And there's something that we can test out for ourselves. That's what we'll be doing with the first person exercises. So what's your self-nature like? So according to the sixth patriarch, Witten, he says, the capacity of mind is as great as that of space. It is infinite, neither round nor square, neither great nor small, neither green nor yellow, neither red nor white, neither above nor below, neither long nor short. And it keeps going on. So the illimitable void of the universe is capable of holding myriads of shapes and forms, such as of the sun, the moon, stars, mountains, rivers, worlds, rivulets. So he says space takes on all these things, and so does the voidness of our nature. So we've got a similar quote by Wei Hai. And he also talks about there being no shape or colour of the mind. So he says, mind has no colour, such as green or red or white. It's not long or short. It does not vanish or appear. It's free from purity and impurity alike, and its duration is eternal. It is utter stillness. Such then is the form of our original mind, which is also our original body. So they seem to be saying that our true nature lacks all objective properties. So it's shapeless, colourless, limitless, changeless, beyond size, and contains all things. But why think that our true nature would be this way? So we're not here to take these teachings on faith or anything like that. Just taking them as pointers. So why think that your nature is spacious and void-like? Well, here's one idea for you. So to experience the world, you need to be compatible with taking it on. So say if you were like the screen on which the world was projected. If the screen was red, then all the blues would be purple, for instance. So the colour would interfere. So it seems that you need to be colourless to take on colour, to see colour. And same with sound. It seems you need to be silent to take on the sounds. Feelingless to take on the feelings and so forth. So that's one way of thinking about why your true nature might be like this. So you can be compatible with experiencing the world. So we're talking about headlessness, and there's various references to headlessness in Zen. So here's one by Chingan. He was asked how the sages of old had obtained awakening. And he replied by making a motion as if chopping off his head. So that was his reference to headlessness. And I like this story, the next one. So Hui Hai, he was asked by a visiting scholar, who was basically a philosopher, and asked how he taught. And he replied that he had no tongue by which to teach. So how could he urge people to do anything? And the visitor was obviously quite confused about this. He says, "Why, master, are you lying to my face?" And Hui Hai replied, "How can this old monk, being without tongue to urge people, tell a lie?" And by now the visitor was quite exasperated. And he said, "Really, I do not understand the way the Venerable Chan Master talks." And Hui Hai replied, "Nor does this old monk understand himself." So this is sort of, it's a classic sort of exchange in Zen, very paradoxical. But I think if you go by direct experience, maybe it's not so strange. You never see your tongue. I don't see my tongue right now. So I'm just talking. Like, how would I even know it's there? So if you go by the first person experience, it starts to make more sense. Another example of headlessness in Zen is from the Heart Sutra. And it says, "In emptiness there is no form, no eyes, no nose, no ears, no tongue, no body, no mind." So in Zen, your true nature is also used interchangeably with original face. So there's actually this famous story in which the fifth patriarch gives the robe of succession to Huai Neng. And at that time, Huai Neng was just a simple kitchen boy. He was uneducated, but he happened to beat the head monk at a competition to create the best stanza to explain the Dharma. So the fifth patriarch gave him the robe and bowl of succession, and then basically told him to flee, because the other monks would not be happy. And so he does. He flees and he runs across the countryside, basically chased by hundreds of angry monks. And one of them actually catches up with him, Wei Meng. And Huai Neng is like, he's thinking this monk's going to kill him or something, or at least take the robe and bowl for himself. But Wei Ming actually replies, I've come for the Dharma, not for the robe and bowl. And so he's asking what his wisdom is. And so Huai Neng is Witten is basically thinking, well, I've got to give him the goods here. I've got to give him the essence of Zen. So this is what he says. He says, when you're thinking of neither good nor evil, what at this particular moment, sir, is your original face, aka your true nature. And Wei Ming says, well, apart from these esoteric teachings, sayings, and esoteric ideas handed down by the patriarchs from generation to generation, are there any other esoteric teachings? And Wei Ming replies, what I tell you is not esoteric. If you turn your light inwardly, you'll find what is esoteric within you. So that's from the Platform Sutra. So how do you know your true nature according to Zen? Well, they seem to be saying you need to look within, not without. So you shouldn't be looking in sacred books and going to teachers, far up in the mountains, seeking for wisdom. You need to look within, turn your attention inwards. And Dogen talks about this in terms of taking a backward step. So that's about, turning inwards, turning your attention inwards and looking within. So, we're not really here to take what these contemplatives say on faith. I think we should be really testing out what they say, and that's part of what we're doing with the experiments. So basically, you're your own authority on your experience, not sacred texts. So you can look at the texts and see if they were right. Do they fit with your experience? So the approach we'll be taking today was developed by Douglas Harding. So he was a philosopher and a mystic. And so he developed a series of experiments for testing out what it's like to be you. He actually grew up in a fundamentalist Christian sect, the exclusive Plymouth Brethren. And so in this sect, he wasn't allowed to read literature or newspapers or go to the cinema or the theatre. Actually, if they wanted to read books other than the Bible, they had to smuggle them in. And if you got caught with them, they were liable to be burnt. So it was a pretty sort of extreme situation to grow up in. And so he left the sect at the age of 21. And he was determined to be his own authority on his experience and sort of spiritual matters. And he was very, very interested in science and relativity. And so he wrote this book on having no head, which described his experience, his first-person experience. And yes, and he actually wrote this huge philosophical tome called The Hierarchy of Heaven and Earth. And basically in it, he talks about what you look like from various distances. So from the outside, say from a few meters, you appear as a person. And you guys are all definitely appear as people to me. So that's good from over here. But he was imagining sort of an approaching observer and what they would see as they approach. And so as they approach, they would see say a head, then an eye, and then it would sort of blur out. So this is as they're getting closer and closer. And you say, well, then if you have the right instruments, if you have a microscope, you would appear as cells, so even closer. And closer still, you would appear as molecules and atoms, which are mostly empty space. And then closer still, particles, which are quite ghostly and sort of like these weird waves. And so it seemed that as they get closer and closer to what you are at center, your thing would sort of starts to dissolve. So he's thinking of this in terms of you having layers. And then if you were to zoom out, so again you'd see the person, you go even further, you would see the MacKillop Centre. Say you got on a rocket, you would see Canberra, then Australia, the Earth. So he's still looking at you, but zooming out and seeing what you look like from all these distances. Even further, you'd see a star, then a galaxy. So his idea was you need all these layers to exist. So, you could get on pretty well with, well, not that well, but if your left hand got chopped off, you could keep going, you could survive. Or you can survive without one of your kidneys. But what if someone took away the sun? Like how long would you live then? Or if they took away the ecosystem? Or even the town that you live in? It seems you need all of these layers to exist. But he wanted to know, well, what's at center? What's at the center of these layers? So he's got the diagram there, basically going inwards towards center. And then he came across this picture, this first-person portrait by Ernst Mach. And in it, you can see, basically, you can see so basically it's from his first-person perspective, and in it you can see the room, the floorboards, some books, his body. So he's got one eye closed in this, so you can see this sort of blur for a nose and this handlebar moustache. So this is his first person self-portrait. So what it's like to be him from his perspective. And it doesn't include his head. He's even holding a pencil there. And so when Harding saw this, he went, oh, that's what I'm looking out of in my experience. It's not a head, it's just this huge gap here. And so he took that as being what's at center, was this nothing, this void, and that's what you're looking out of. So that was quite a revelation for him, and then he connected it with what the contemplatives say in various traditions. So let's do the experiments. So the first one, so one thing I should say about the experiments is basically the idea is to sort of set aside what you believe about yourself and just an imagination and memory, and you're just going by your first person experience. So just your direct experience. So we start off with sort of visual experience, and I also go into some other into other sensory modalities as well. We're just starting off, yeah, basically your subjective experience. So forgetting what you think you know about yourself. Obviously, you look like a person from the outside, from a certain distance, but what's it like to be you from your perspective? So you know what your third person identity is as a person. And we're not denying that. Obviously, that's how you appear to others. We're not trying to get rid of that. But what's your first person identity? What is it like to be you at center, at zero distance from where you're looking from? That's the question that we'll be looking at. And because it's about your own experience, you're the authority. You're the authority on what it's like to be you. So the first exercise is looking down at your body. So if you just look down at your body, just notice what you see. See your feet, your legs, your torso, your arms. But you can't see your own head from your perspective. Just going by the direct visual experience. And that's the basic experience we're talking about. You don't see your face, you see the world. It's another way of putting it. Maybe you say, but I can see my nose. So let's look at that. So if you sort of close and open one eye and look at what you call your nose. So remember, we're setting aside common sense and just going by the direct experience. So I find there's this big blur that goes from the top to the bottom of the scene. So it's quite huge. Actually, there are two of them because it swaps from side to side. Is it attached to anything in your direct experience? Is it attached? Is it in the middle of the face? Is it like what you see in the middle of someone's face? Or is it just kind of floating there? In any case, it's what's behind the blur that we're interested in. So next exercise. So if you hold up your hands in front of you as if you're holding a basketball, and just notice that you can fit anything in that gap there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put our hands past our head. So we know what it looks like from the outside, but what's it like from your perspective? So just slowly bring your hands back. Just watch what happens. They start to get bigger and bigger. And then start to, as you come past, I find they're starting to blur. And if you put them all the way back, for me, they just disappear into a void, or just nothing in this direction. And then you can bring them back again. You can do it a couple times, just to get a sense of what this region is like. Just watch them disappear. So we're going by direct experience. We're just looking. So the next exercise is pointing. So Bodhidharma, the first patriarch of Zen, talks about Zen, the essence of Zen, in being pointing directly to your mind or your true nature. But how does one actually do that? So one way, the pointing experiment actually gets you to point to where you're looking from. And we use a pointing finger to direct our attention. So if you get out a pointing finger, get out a finger, and just point at the opposite wall. And just notice what you're pointing at. Notice that it's got shape and color. So you can't see through it, so it's opaque. It's definitely a thing. Now if you point to the floor, it's kind of grey with lots of textures and colours. So again, you're pointing at a thing. If you point to your foot, again, it's got shape and colour, textures. Point to your leg. It's also got shape and colour. You point to your belly. It's also shape and colour. Maybe there's movement from your breathing. Now if you point to where you're looking from, so just going by your direct visual experience, is there any shape and colour in this direction? In your eyes, nose, mouth, place. So you're directing attention to where you're looking from. So not at the finger, actually just directing attention here. For me, it's just an open space. I can't find any of those characteristics. That open space that contains the finger and the room, all of you, in fact. And now if you point outwards and notice what the outward finger is pointing at. So I find that it points at various things. So nothing in this direction and things in that direction. Do you find a dividing line between those things in this space? I can't find one. You could say that the space isn't just empty, but it's full. So we call this two-way pointing. Two-way looking or two-way attention. And remember that we're talking about our true nature as being colourless and shapeless. And that seems to fit what I'm wanting to hear. So the next exercise is the single eye. So the question here is, how many eyes are you looking out of in your direct experience? We obviously think of ourselves as thinking out of two eyes. Are you looking out of two holes, two little peepholes onto the world? So to test this, what we're going to do is actually make a pair of glasses, or you can use glasses if you have some. And just hold out your hands and just make a pair of glasses. So don't put them on yet. Some of you are very keen. So if you just hold them out and notice that you can see two little holes, and each one has a little picture of different things in the room. So there's two of them, and you can put any little part of the room in those holes, in those frames. And so now what we're going to do is put those glasses on and just notice what happens. So just slowly bring it back. Notice that the pictures get bigger and bigger. They hold more and more of the room. It starts to blur. It's a little starting to blur. And put it on. Oh, for me it's turned into a monocle. I've only got one image, one picture. You can just sort of drop your hands. You could call it one single field, or the single eye, if you like. So one question about this is, well, how big is this field? Is it like objects in the room? So to test this, if you get out your pointing finger again, and just use it to trace out the boundaries of objects in the room, and just notice that they all have boundaries and they've got things outside of them. So they've got surrounding environment. There's things to the left and right of them. They've got shape and boundaries and colour. So now if you put your hands out right to the edge of your visual field, don't hit your neighbour, and just trace out this field, the single eye. Do you see anything outside of that boundary? Is there a boundary? I can't see anything. And say that this space is boundless. The whole view is just floating in the void, if you like. Can any of you see anything outside of your view? There's no second view to compare it to, so how can we even give it a size? So next experiment, you'll need the card. So if you get out your card, and And just hold it so that you've got the mirror down the bottom left corner, right corner, sorry. And if you're online, you can look at your face on the screen. So just hold out the card and look at your face in the mirror. Just notice where it is. It's about 1 foot away. It's quite small. It's got shape and color. It's a thing, so it excludes other things, has boundaries. Is it like where you're looking from right now? I find that it's safely over there in the glass, luckily. Not here where I'm looking from. So now if you compare that little face with the hole in the card, and if you're online, you can make sort of a frame with your fingers. So look at the hole in the card and just notice that it's space for anything in the room. So you can move it around and anything fits in that frame. It's totally empty, and so it just takes on anything. It doesn't exclude anything in the room, any people. So now the question is where you're looking from more like that face in the mirror or more like the gap or the space in the card? So what we're going to do is just slowly just put it on. So just slowly bring it towards yourself. And just notice that the hole gets bigger and bigger and takes in more and more of the room. And then the frame starts to blur. Put it right on. Oh, I've lost the frame. The space seems to fit it perfectly, but it's got no boundary that I can see. This is what in Zen they call your original face. This boundless space that just takes in everything. And if you look around, there's some rather silly looking people with cards on their heads. Do you look silly from your perspective? No, I think my face is your problem, not mine. Okay, so next exercise, the closed eyes experiment. So if you just close your eyes. Notice the darkness. Maybe it's not completely black. And just notice your bodily experience. Just notice what shape is your body right now. What size is it? How many fingers do you have? Can you feel 5 distinct digits on each hand without moving them? Or is it shapeless? What shape is your left ear? Can you feel the shape there? Attend to your face, your facial sensations. Can you feel a precise shaped face? Would you know what a face was like if you'd never seen or touched one? Just going by direct experience. So remember, we're dropping imagination and memory and just going by the experience. You bring up your hands and actually touch your face and head. Oh, I found my nose. Yep. Can feel some shapes now. Bit squishy, some eyebrows. Yeah. Do you feel your face and head all at once? Or do you only feel the parts that you're touching? Do you have to sort of imagine it, what it's like? Now, if you just drop your hands again and notice the difference, can you feel distinct shape of a face? Can you feel any shape? Are you in those sensations? Or are they just in your awareness? Now, if you listen to sounds, so some are near, some are far, some are loud, some are soft. Just arising from the silence. If you count in your mind, just notice, are those thoughts in a separate field from those sounds? Do you find a dividing line between them? Or are they in the same field of experience? Are your thoughts trapped in a head box? Imagine a pink elephant, a red triangle. How did you do that? Where did it come from? I mean, it just came out of nowhere. So it came out of the void. So now if you attend, sort of broaden your attention so you're aware of the darkness, your bodily sensations, your thoughts. Are they in separate fields of experience? Or is it just one field of experience? So dropping imagination and memory. What is your name? Do you have a particular name, age, and gender? What is it like to be you? So now you can open your eyes. The world's flooded again with colours and shapes. But I find it's still one field of experience. Oh, so let's do the tube experiment. If you get out the paper bag that has a mirror in it, go. Over there. So what we're going to do is, when you're ready, so if you basically put your head in the paper bag and look at your face in the mirror. So just notice the shapes and colors of the face. Are there any shapes and colors where you're looking from? How many faces do you see? Is it 2 or 1? Notice that the face in the mirror locks up one end of the bag. By contrast, is your end closed or open? Do you see anything in that direction where you're looking from? Is it just a space for that face? So you can come out for a breather. We'll go back into the bag in a second. Just let you breathe a bit. So if you go back in again. So notice the difference between the face in the mirror and where you're looking from. The shapes and colors of the face. Are there any shapes and colors in your direction? Is where you're looking from closed or open? So just also notice whether one end of the bag seems more awake or aware than the other. So looking in the mirror. Couldn't you say that where you're looking from, that space, isn't just a dead void or nothing, but awake? Is that your experience? Okay, you can come out of the bag. Okay, so I just want to end by talking about some possible benefits of practicing this, noticing this perspective. At least for me, what I found. I think one is just relief from being a person. You don't have to be Brentyn all the time. Just noticing that I'm space for you all now. So that really helps with self-consciousness. My face belongs to all you. In fact, there's over a dozen Brentyns in this room right now, all these different perspectives. And also personal relationships. So we think that we meet each other face to face, right? But that's what it looks like from the third person perspective, from the outside. But I never see my face. So it's face to no face. if you just turn to your partner next to you and just look at their face, just briefly, and just notice if it's face, what the setup is. Is it face to face? Or is it face to no face? You can turn back. So you could say that you only get the other person's face. So I disappear in favor of others when I'm talking with them. And also everyday life, it just makes things more interesting. So this morning I was at Sydney Central Station and I was just noticing, so I'm walking through the station, but from my perspective, actually the station was moving, the walls were moving, the people were all in my consciousness, and I was vast, space for the station, and just moving through me and noticing that and seeing all the people moving through the station and some of them disappearing into the void and others coming out of the void. It's just really endlessly fascinating just to notice things from this perspective. Or if you're in a car, you notice you're not moving, the street lights are moving, the trees, they're going into the void. So I find that just makes things so much more interesting. And I think I'll leave it there, and I'll be glad to hear about your experiences of doing the exercises.
We'd like to have a break now of about 15 minutes, then we'll come back for questions and some other interests of what's going on with people, particularly with these lovely experiments. It's quite fascinating. Thank you very much. We'll be going around, we're doing all these experiments now. Checking out. Okay, we'd like to come and have some supper and a bit of talking and meet.
Really gotta telling me you can't see ahead. I'm like, what is this stuff? This is crazy. But I ended up doing some of the experiments. I'm like, yeah, wow. Really saw the spaciousness. And so at that time, well, it's probably still the case, but at that time, doing first person methods or anything like that was very much voodoo in psychology and also philosophy. So I wanted to do something to do with this, basically, first person science. So I ended up doing a psychology PhD, and it turned out that doing first person methods in psychology at that time, at least, was very hard. So that didn't really go anywhere. So then I did a PhD in philosophy, and then I was able to actually start exploring some of this stuff. First person approach to consciousness, to the nature of the self. Can you hear it now?
Yeah, it is working.
Okay.
That's okay.
How was everyone's experience of it? Does anyone have feedback?
We have a question from Francis on Zoom who says, so interesting, what does our speaker think life was like before mirrors and before photographs? Would understanding this help with body image issues in therapy?
It's a good question. Yeah, what was it like before photographs and mirrors? I mean, I guess maybe there were streams, but it would have been at some point our species learnt what we look like in the mirror, learnt how we appear to others, and obviously not all animals can do that. And we start out as babies. We don't recognize ourselves. Obviously, we just You just see another baby over there in the mirror. And you have to learn that that's you. That's you. And it's a very slow process. And then eventually we identify completely with that person. But the babies obviously don't know what they look like. They start off spacious, headless. They're just taking in the world. So this perspective is sort of getting back to that, but also not losing sight of, you're not losing knowledge of what you look like to others. You obviously want both. You need that to function in the world. In terms of psychotherapy, I mean, I think it does have a lot of potential. This hasn't been studied. I remember there was a story Douglas Harding tells. He gave a workshop, and afterwards there was a young woman who came up to him, and she was very self-conscious, and she was very worried that she had a big nose and things like that. And he basically talked about this perspective and said, well, you know, your face is other people's business, not your own. You don't get a face in this direction. So this is like the ultimate facelift. Just being space for others. We also call it trading faces. You have my face and I have yours right now.
I was going to say, you know, not many species have self-awareness, like we can recognize ourselves in the mirror, and some other species can, like elephants and maybe some primates like chimps, but most animals don't have that self-awareness, self-consciousness that we have. But when you talk about becoming aware of ourselves by avoiding this, I mean, often the self we experience is that inner monologue, which comes from this situation. And you're thinking, well, those other species that don't have language are not kind of listening to that inner voice, you know. So I guess part of what you're doing is, you know, for example, when you're walking through Central Station, noticing all that, it's kind of sidestepping that voice a little bit, you know. Like for me, you know, there's a space here where my inner monologue is, and that's a lot of my experience of myself. So it's not just a voidness.
Yeah, I mean the void. It's not just empty. It's full. It's full of the scene, and it also includes your thoughts and sensations. But you can notice. I can notice this. I don't see my face. I can notice. Can't see my face, like even when I'm thinking. Just turning attention this way. So even with the monologue happening, noticing, well, you're also space for those thoughts and feelings. So it's not about trying to get rid of thoughts or anything like that. Or some meditation practices where you try and get rid of all experiences, basically.
That's and I don't want to hog this because Brentyn and I kind of are behind him when we're studying in the same place, but the idea that you can have a consciousness or awareness without contents, and that's a debatable area. Like some people say you can't have a pure awareness without contents because for you to be conscious, parts of the cortex have to be activated. So there have to be states of conscious. You have to be conscious of things, like you're conscious of a sound or of a colour these are states of consciousness, and to be aware means to be aware of something. So some philosophers argue that you can't have this pure awareness, whereas in a lot of the contemplative traditions, they say you can have this pure awareness where you're not aware of anything, you know, and that's a grey area that's what Brentyn does, like what some philosophers or scientists do is they look at the brain to try and understand how we have our experiences. So what areas of the brain light up, what can that tell us about the sort of experiences we have? But what Brentyn's doing is just saying, okay, I mean, he's aware of that, but okay, just from this perspective of being me, what is it like to be me? You know, so it's not saying I don't have a head, because he knows he's got a head. But, you know, it's kind of these two different, the third person perspective is different to the first person. And it's quite hard if you're new to it to bracket what you know about yourself and just focus on what that experience is. And that's what he's doing. He's just focusing on what is my experience, and that's what those exercises, you know, that they seem, it seems like an outlandish sort of claim, but, you know, they're trying to get you to really see what it's like to be you from this perspective, not from, you know.
That's perfect, Shauna. I couldn't put it better myself. Do you want to come up here and answer the questions?
Sorry.
Yes, I've heard vaguely of Harding and his headless ideas before, but I don't have any context or thought they were a bit, they sounded rather outlandish. But that link
I don't know
with
what
Zen,
gave you that idea.
the link with Zen Buddhism that he began with, and how presumably Harding began with, legal from Buddhist philosophy, and I think it was quite interesting.
Yeah.
Are you sort of taking taking this field of study any further, Brent, or academic ways or other ways?
I have written about the connection between this perspective and Zen, and yeah, so definitely explored that. But yeah, Douglas he started off in his book on Having No Head. That's where he really talked about Zen and the connections. So I kind of took that and expanded on it, and also brought in some contemporary philosophy as well, exploring that perspective and the similarities. Yeah. So it's actually called the technology, the article is called The Technology of Awakening. So that's what we were doing with those exercises. Got apparatus to focus your attention.
It's an interesting therapeutic avenues to explore.
Definitely.
If you'd like to purchase a copy of Jeff's excellent newsletter, the second part one, there's a couple over here. The front cover has a picture of an infant child looking into a mirror, maybe starting to form for the first time, a sort of self-image, to see his or herself as others would see them, as you were saying before, without being familiar with cameras or mirrors. And on the back page, on the back cover, I think, Jeff, you've got some animals looking into mirrors, seeing themselves. Some of us have had the experience of a young dog. I remember Ross White when he first got a dog, who was excited about seeing himself in the reflection of the piano, the shiny panel in front of the piano below the keyboard. And this dog would jump around and bump into it and poke at it and so forth. And it took a while to come to terms with the idea of his own reflection. You mentioned in response to the comment about mirrors and cameras, maybe people in days of yore would look into a stream or something, see themselves. Well, that's surely the story of Narcissus, isn't it? Looked into a poem. Some of us here would know more about this than I do. And started focusing on the image of himself. And therapists and so forth, commentators, refer to people these days as narcissists. I'm not sure what that means, but I presume it means some strongly focused on their self-image and how other people see them.
Yeah. So you can think about what we're doing, what we do as adults. You know, obviously as infants, you start out headless and open. You don't know what you look like, but then we learn what we look like, and we map that onto these sensations. Obviously, I can still feel some head sensations in the space, but we map that on, and we bring that face here, and then we feel like we're separate from others. So we call this the face game. It's the social game that we play that's reinforced by others all the time. You know, you look at me and you reflect back what I look like in that sense. And so I get the sense that I'm Brentyn and I'm separate from others. from
I can't know
yeah.
your conscious experience, you can't know mine.
Uh-huh.
Rachel, I wonder what you or other therapists, Kirsten, for example, might do or say with a client who says, I hate seeing myself in a mirror or seeing photos of myself, they're all horrible, you know. And I sort of avoid ever looking at myself in the mirror, therefore I can't comb my hair properly, whatever, you know. I presume that would, from the therapist's point of view, would be quite a bad sign of self-perception, because the visual image is one thing, but it presumably reflects what's going on behind it, the shadow somehow.
Yeah.
Others would have something to say about that.
Yeah, I think like with the mirror and photos, I mean, I think the idea here is to notice where the face is. I always see it out there. Don't see it here. So you can say, I look in the mirror to see what I'm not from a first person perspective. But this isn't about trying to get rid of the third person, your third person identity or anything like that. It's about placing it. So that's sort of like your peripheral nature, if you like, what you look like from a certain distance. But the question is, well, what do you like for yourself at zero distance? So yeah, and you know, a lot of people have trouble with their third person identity, and you know, and that's what a lot of therapy is about. And yeah, that's useful.
Everybody has a different perception. And Robin says, you know, what would it look like? What would I say look like? Exactly. Yeah. I would say that it's in the mirror. We'll sit and contemplate the mirror. I wouldn't start anywhere. I wouldn't make them look in the mirror, I wouldn't explain, I wouldn't diagnose. I'd just be the person in their feeling, how they feel. Progress further down the track. rather than try to fix it, you know, because they have to own it. It's not my problem. They have to own it. And they need to find themselves in that. And the first or third person is very important. I was reading an article in that the other day in MacKillop, where some scientists have discovered that ants amputate each other's legs when they're not good legs. Now, I had absolutely no idea that ants would have that level of consciousness. They would help another ant do that. And that to me is a level of consciousness we have no idea. Ants don't speak, so therefore they wouldn't have the intelligence to do that kind of thing. They nurse these fellow ants back to health. So think about that. Pretty awesome.
What is it like to be an ant?
Yeah, and I think I took myself to also I've done some work with something good now, and I did do one meditation where I explored myself, and I found nothing straight through the board. I only ever happened once. I know what you're talking about when you say that. And I think it's very good. But it can be scary when we're opening the forwards and understanding the standing stones, the wind's going out. And I thought I could get out and compensate. I could the wind almost breaking up myself. So I decided, no, I'm not going anywhere else, it's stay here. So these are perceptions, aren't they? I'm sure that I will be broken apart. But I don't know whether I answered that question very well. I hope I did. I mean, I think that's the kind of therapist I am. I don't try not to start.
So you wouldn't just say, oh, you're beautiful, don't worry about it.
No.
Charge $160 for you.
No, I would not. I definitely would not. I'd say, okay, let's sit with this. We'll walk together. I think that's the important thing. But to recognise that other person's perception. We've all got different perceptions. And that goes to emotion. Goes to feelings, goes to that spirituality, our understanding of spirituality. It goes to that upbringing, where it comes from, and style of living. It's very complex.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Great presentation. I have a maybe sort of question. I was wondering in your what you think seems to also avoid compared to some of the other Western traditions. Something where you know get to that state of sort of oneness. Whereas that seems to be very different.
Right. I think it also has oneness because sort of that's like the initial step of noticing that you are nothing. But at the same time, that allows you to be everything. So Zen talks a lot about, you know, what is the Dharma, and they'll often just point at some bamboo or a lily in a field, and I think they're basically pointing to your non-separation from that the world is your original face. Your original face isn't just nothing; it's also everything. So I'm taking in all of you right now. It's not so nothing in this direction, things in that direction, and no separation, no separation at all. How can nothing be separate from things? You know, there's nothing to keep things out. So I guess that's one way of looking at it. So the different aspects of the same thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really loved your presentation. I was interested in the whole presentation that was about sight, and I'd love to hear it from a blind person's perspective, and also about the other senses. And so I was even wondering, have you ever done this whole presentation from the perspective of sound, or have you ever done the whole presentation from the perspective of smell, taste, or touch? Because I'd love to see and understand Zen's philosophy on the other senses. Have you looked at that at all in your studies?
Yeah, I've been looking at it. I guess that it's easier with vision to really get a sense of it, but also I think with sounds, but like we were exploring in the closed eye experiment, them arising from the silence. So that's the same spaciousness. With touch. Touch is very interesting. So if you say touch your seat that you're sitting on with your fingers, I feel the seat, not my fingers. So in a way, my body, or when I'm sitting in my seat, I feel the seat, not my body. So in a way, my body is also space for things, or empty for things from that perspective. Does that make sense?
It's the same. So the other senses are a sponge. The
Yeah.
world, and like anything.
Well, exactly. You don't hear you hear voices. You don't hear your eardrums. You see the world. You don't see your eyes. You feel the thing you're touching, not your fingertips. So the idea is you need to be empty to take on any of those things. If the sense organ got in the way, obviously you wouldn't be able to see the world, or you wouldn't be able to feel things. So I think it's useful to start off with sight, but then you can go into other senses and go, well, this is true. This is true about the others as well.
So one more question.
Sure.
At the beginning, you just mentioned the awakened experience,
Mm-hmm.
and related that to Zen, also the experience of the void. You say there's one more little thing about what is the actual awakened experience that you've experienced?
What is it? What is it that I've experienced?
Yeah, that's been full awakening. Yeah, at the moment in your life, being like, oh my God, I'm awakened to the void that I am. Or is it awakened to what is the awakened experience that you think?
I mean, I think it's just what I've been talking about here of just noticing the space. Like when I came across this stuff, I wasn't a seeker. I was just a philosopher who's interested in, just curious about the world, and so I wasn't seeking anything or trying to have a spiritual experience or anything like that. And so, but I think it's a very basic sort of experience, and in a way, there's nothing spiritual about it. Like it's so basic, and maybe that's one of the problems, because it's so simple, so simple. It can't be that simple. Oh, there's the void. But maybe it is. That's what they say in Zen. It's that simple. It's ordinary mind.
I just think in Buddhism they talk about dhyanas, which are levels of sort of consciousness that you go into when you meditate. And I think there's a difference, like the level I'm in now is a normal waking state. And I think there's a difference between that and the state I'm in when I'm stoned, which I don't get stoned anymore, right? You know, the state I'm in when I'm stoned or when I'm drunk or when I'm on LSD, they're different states of consciousness. And the state you're in when you're in a void, you know, like a meditative void state, the maybe not those monks, I don't know, but maybe they're in it all the time, the ones who you quote who are historical figures. But I think those levels of consciousness are different. I don't know on what dimensions, but I think the idea of voidness, experiencing voidness, means that I would be like, it would be like stoned, but way beyond stoned, you know, which is different to how I am now, you know. So this is not the same as the kind of heightened. Okay, so drugs that heighten colour. You know, so you're on LSD and you're looking at blue in the normal waking state, and then or a flower, and then you're on LSD and it's like, oh my God, you know, that there's a heightened awareness, and I think that voidness that's spoken of is a shift in consciousness. I'm presuming that, I don't know, but I think it would be a lot different. Somehow it's a lot different to this normal waking state where we're limited. We're limited in a sense in what we can perceive. That's my feeling. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we can distinguish between sort of peak, like mystical experiences, full-on mystical experiences. We can call them peak experiences, and you know, oneness with everything and all the stuff that comes with that. They're very hard to come by. Very hard to come by, and they're very hard to repeat. Whereas I think another type of experience is the valley experience, where it's just as simple as noticing you can't see your face right now, you see other people. You couldn't get like much less mystical than that.
I think I just wanted to reiterate that, because I think I know a little bit about Zen, and it differs from other Buddhist philosophies. Like, they generally try to train you to raise your level of consciousness and have all sorts of techniques. Whereas Zen, the whole idea of Zen is to just skip all that and just have this really simple experience of experiencing the world without or conscious effort behind the thoughts. So you just have that. So I think with these people that experience enlightenment, it's a very at the end it's a very simple experience. It's not a mystical experience, and then they spend their entire lives trying to get other people to have that same, like, get out of their own way and have that exact same experience. So that's, yeah.
That would be different. Then you say it's different, it's different.
So there's a kind of Zen that's just sitting meditation. There's no teaching. You just sit and you sit and you sit. Yeah. Until you have this realization. And I think what you're getting at is that it is that simple. It's not a mystical, complex thing that takes years to come by. The Zen master was a cook or whatever, and he hands the bowl to the cook. That is enlightened because he's just had that experience without any training or study. I think I thought the practices that you developed or that you're doing were quite interesting. Right? like tools to get you that spot quicker?
Yeah, I think it is incredibly simple, and it's just a change in perspective. That's all. It's just a change in perspective. Shifting from, you know, we're kind of outside ourselves in a way, always imagining what we look like. Shifting to noticing this openness here. And that's incredibly simple. You can call it ordinary even. And you don't need to know what Zen is or any traditions to do that.
I was just going to agree with the comments of the speaker on the left. I've been involved in studying Tibetan Buddhism for about 30 years. And as you say, it's not complicated enlightenment, it's within yourself. And it never ceases to amaze us. Up in the hall, people arrive, where's my guru? I need, you know, enlightenment and this and that. And a lot of people are very shocked to find that it's not mystical, it's not magical, it's within themselves. So your talk today was very, very interesting.
Thank you.
Can I just make a comment here? Dorothy Awanda is a life member of the Young Society, president for years and so forth, Jungian therapist, has run quite a number of sessions with us, where a series of 6 sessions, 1 per week, for a couple of hours, where we've done working through dreams and things. And one of the features of people talking about dreams that I've particularly noticed, or certainly for myself, you know, we say, oh yes, I've had lots of dreams, but I can't remember them and so forth, you know, I have these justifications and excuses and things. And for myself, as a very rather impatient in all aspects of life, including dreaming, I don't give it, I tend not to give it time when I wake up in the morning, which I think is a mystical sort of a time in our life when we come in through a transition in states of consciousness. And, you know, you're talking about about awareness of our bodies and so forth. I found that if I'm willing to go to bed early enough so that I can afford time in the morning to enjoy this experience, it's a time when I can be aware that I'm aware, recursively, but I'm not particularly aware of the environment, unless my partner's doing the ironing in the room or something, which could be a problem. So it's within myself, that awareness of the internal functioning there. And it's really a wonderful experience, I think, close to mystical, if you can give yourself time to enjoy that time. There's no analysis, no rationality to it, just an enjoyment.
It's beautiful.
Thank you very much. Marvellous to have you here today.
Thank you very much for having me. If I could get my apparatus back, I'd be very grateful.
We'd like to give you a presentation for your efforts getting here.
Oh. Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your great efforts.
Oh, thank you.
It's a sincerely good of appreciation. We always give these out.
Oh, wow.
So that you've been here.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
And great to have you here. Thank you very much for. I think everyone's enjoyed being here tonight. That's been great. Really great to have you. Something practical too, which is really good.
Yeah,
exactly. Listening to someone speak, which is very good. And so I bet you've all learned something tonight, and it's really great. And next month on Friday, the 2nd of August, we'll meet someone who we know from February last year. It's Dr. Nicola Moscow, a great thinker and speaker. So he'll be talking there. Is my enemy my friend? My spirit companion. I bet you haven't spent a lot of time contemplating this question. So this should be a special event. And of course, consider if you need to become a member or renew your membership. It's great to have that. And if you become a member or renew, you can borrow these books. And so it's great. Because John's gone the extra length and gone out of his way to do the newsletter. It's for you too, because I want you to keep on keeping on. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you everyone for coming tonight. We've got a special guest, a lovely son from Warburton, and granddaughter, Elora. They've come especially from Warburton, all the way from Victoria.